So for this watercolor drapery study, I've created an abstract background. Now actually technically I've created two. Here's the other one. This one's still a little damp, so I've decided to use this one. So what I've done first is I've established my composition. Now remember, if I decided to go with a horizontal composition, make sure that my board is horizontal. So don't be a slave to the vertical composition just because I'm doing it. You have to find your composition based off your sketches. So here, what I've done is, what you can't see is I've drawn out my basic composition. So I've drawn out guidelines. They are super light. I use my 2H pencil, and I wanted that because I don't want to be able to see my lines through my painting. Because remember, watercolor is very transparent, and you're going to be working with layers. So the first thing I'm going to do is, understanding that I've got a highlight over here and then I got shadows over here, I'm going to be blocking in a bunch of these shadows. Okay, so I'm also going to be looking at some of these shadows in here and eventually even some of the background. But the thing is, I can't go too dark too quickly. I have to start light and build my way up. So since I have blue in here, I could go with complementary if I wanted to. I could go with analogous. It's really up to me what it is that I want to do. So I'm actually going to jump in with a little bit of a complementary color, so I'm going to come in with orange. Okay, I'm just practicing some techniques. I'm just going to be practicing some color schemes. So I'm going to start over here in the darkest area in here, and basically what I'm doing is I'm putting down a line in here and then using my water to move the paint around. Okay. Yes, it is going to be transparent. That's the natures of water. That's the nature of watercolor. That's kind of what I want. Is I don't want to completely cover up the background, at least not in these areas. Okay, so I'm pulling it down into here. Okay, you'll notice that it kind of goes from a little bit darker to a little bit lighter. Okay, this is not as dark as I'm going to go. I'm going to actually go darker eventually. But for right now, I've just used a little graded wash right in here to establish that's where this fold is. That's where that is. You'll notice that majority of the time when you're dealing with hanging drapery, it creates triangles. So once that's in there, okay, not a lot of water because I want it to be sure that it dries a little bit before I move into that. Otherwise, it's going to bleed. Okay, because this area in here is also another dark area. Up in here, there's a dark area. So I'm going to move over here. All right, and notice I'm using my large flat. Reason for that is it covers a lot of area really quickly, and by doing so, I'm not trying to get into too many details, because that's one of the biggest mistakes with watercolors, is we jump into details right away. No, details come later. Details are going to be the last things to put on there. Okay, so I'm building up slowly but surely, taking my time. Well, I'm rushing a little bit because I want you to be painting, not me. So come in here, come into the shadow, and you'll notice how by putting the shadow in here, it makes the blue area a little bit lighter. Yeah, that's the point. Okay, sometimes I can make an area lighter by making the area around it darker. And that's basically what I'm doing. Pulling it down into here. And you see how it begins. So suddenly I start to get this ghost image right on top there. Yeah, that's kind of the point. All right, is we're using layers. We're painting lightly to reveal the under painting, if you will. Coming back in here, this one's going to be a little bit lighter, but it's going to help define that other edge of the drapery in here. And it's not going to be that dark. You notice I don't let it dry in there, just kind of move it around. Nice large strokes, comes up in here. And that's building up to what I want to do. All right, come back in here with some other ones. Now I'm going to actually come into the background over here to try to define that outside edge, which, yes, it's a little nerve-wracking, because as you know with watercolor, it's once you put it down, that color's on there. All right, so take these chances. All right, what's the worst thing that could happen? You make a mistake, big deal. It's learning. Define that edge in there, which is I'm kind of defining this edge over here. Not perfectly just yet, that's fine. Just getting some of that color in there. Okay? And you see it starting to develop. That's the point, is it's starting to develop. And basically I'm just going to keep on going in here, putting in some of these darker areas, trying to develop my folds, my shadows. Eventually I'm going to come in and make the orange a little bit darker here and there where I see it, so that way I get the drapery really coming out on top of this background. That's how we start.